In today's lesson, we'll be looking at Chapter 4, Lesson 3 on dividing fractions, and our goal is to use the flip it strategy and use the reciprocal to divide fractions. As stated in our goal, part of dividing fractions is going to involve finding the reciprocal of a number. So we first need to talk about what a reciprocal is. A reciprocal is just a number that, when multiplied by a given number, gives a product of 1. Because of this, it can always be found by writing whatever number we're given as a single fraction and then switching the numerator and the denominator. So for example, in 4/5, we already have a single fraction, so I don't need to do step A. That step's already been done for me. What I do need to do is switch the numerator and the denominator. So I'm going to put 5 as my numerator, 4 as my denominator. Careful, because the one mistake I'll see made is that people put 4/5 equals 5/4. Now we know that's not a true statement. 4/5 is a fraction smaller than 1. We don't even have 1 whole. 5/4 equals 1 1/4. We have a little bit more than 1. So those two statements don't equal. All I'm saying is that 4/5 reciprocal is 5⁴. Now let's talk about the definition of reciprocal and why this procedure always works for finding the reciprocal. To be a reciprocal, if we multiply the number by its reciprocal, we should get a product of 1. Well, if I were to multiply 4/5 times 5/4, my numerator would be 4 times 5, which is 20. My denominator would be 4 times 5, which is 20. And so I would get 1. So the reciprocal of 4/5 is going to be 5/4. Now let's take a look at another example. If I have the example 3 1/5, the first thing I need to do is I need to rewrite 3 1/5. I need to write it as a single fraction. Now to make a mixed number into a single fraction, I know I need to write it as an improper fraction. So to do that, I'm going to multiply the whole number by the denominator. 3 times 5 is 15, and I'm going to add 1 is 16. That's my new numerator, and I know my denominator never changes, so I have 5. So now that I've written it as a single fraction, now I can switch my numerator and my denominator. So I'm going to put 5 as my numerator, 16 as my denominator. Again, I notice if I multiply 5 times 16, I'm going to get the exact same answer as if I do 16 times 5. So my numerator and denominator are going to be the same. It's going to simplify to 1. So this time my reciprocal of 3 1/5 is going to be 5/16. Take a minute to pause the video and solve the next 3 reciprocals that you'll find on your note skeleton sheet. Those of you who had 5th grade math with me last year will remember this video because we watched it when we looked at dividing fractions then. I think it's nice and catchy and gives a lot of good information about what we do when we divide fractions. I've printed some of the lyrics for you on your note section sheet because they do, again, give us another way to look at dividing. So go ahead and take a couple minutes to view this video, and I think it'll help give you a good idea and good reminder and good thing that'll get stuck in your head about how to divide fractions. There are 7 basic steps that we can follow to ensure that we're able to divide any combination of fractions and mixed numbers that we're presented with. The first thing we need to do is turn each number into a single fraction. So when I look at the first example, 2 divided by 8/11, I notice that the first number is not currently a single fraction, so I need to make it one. I remember from a previous lesson that any whole number can be rewritten as that whole number over a denominator of 1. And again, if I try to change 2/1 into a mixed number, I end up getting just 2. There's no remainder. So I can rewrite 2 as 2/1, and then I'm going to rewrite the second one I don't need to rewrite because 8/11 is already a single fraction. Moving on to step 2, it says leave the first fraction alone. So 2/1 is going to stay like it is. Remember from the flip it video that when we flip it, it requires a couple of things. We first need to change the division symbol into a multiplication symbol, and then we want to write the second fraction as a reciprocal. Well, I remember that a reciprocal just means to switch the numerator and the denominator. So I'm going to do 11 on the top and 8 on the bottom now. Just like multiplication now, I'm going to be able to cancel any common factors. Only if one is a numerator and the other is a denominator. We can only cancel vertically or diagonally. Well, right away I notice that 2 and 8 are related factors, and they are vertical. One's a numerator, the other is a denominator. So I know that I can go ahead and cancel. Instead of 2, 2 goes into 2 one time. I'm going to divide 2 into 8 4 times. So now I can take a look at my numbers. There's no other common factors vertically or diagonally that I can cancel. So I'm going to move on to step 5, which tells me to multiply the two numerators to create the numerator for your answer. So 1 times 11 is 11. Multiply the two denominators to create the denominator. So 1 times 4 is 4. Well, to simplify, which step 7 tells me to do, I'm going to have to write this as a mixed number. So 4 is going to go into 11 2 times. That's 8. So the difference of 8 and 11 is going to be 3. That'll be my new numerator. My denominator will stay at 4. So 2 3/4 is my answer. So what I need to remember when I'm dividing fractions is I'm actually turning it into a multiplication problem. So a lot of these steps should be familiar to you from when we worked with multiplying fractions. For our second example, we're going to start the exact same way, making sure we rewrite each fraction as a single fraction. Notice this time 2/5 is already going to stay the same, but 10 needs to be turned into fractions. So I'll do that by writing 10 over 1. Now I need to leave the first fraction alone, so this time 2/5 is the same. Then I'm going to change the division symbol to multiplication, and I'm going to flip it. I'm going to flip that second one. I'm going to write its reciprocal, so I'm going to put 1 over 10. Now I'm going to look for any canceling I can do. I notice 2 and 10 are related. 2 goes into 2 one time. 2 goes into 10 5 times. Notice I have 2 5s here, but I can never cancel horizontally, so I can't do anything to get rid of those. I'm just going to have to continue on from here. So if I multiply my numerators, I'll have 1 times 1 is 1. I'll have 5 times 5 is 25. And there's no way to simplify this fraction, so 1 over 25 is going to be my answer. And again, this makes sense. If I start with the fraction 2/5 and I divide that piece into 10 pieces, 2/5 of something isn't even that big to begin with. So if I split it into 10 pieces, they're not going to be very big pieces. In this next example, we're given a mixed number first. So when I'm changing that into a single fraction, I'm going to write it as an improper fraction. So I'm going to do 2 times 3 is 6, plus 2 is 8. And I'm going to do 8 over 3 divided by 1 over 3. Then I'm going to flip it by leaving the first fraction alone, changing the symbol to multiplication, and writing the reciprocal of 1 over 3, which is 3 over 1. And then I'm going to notice that I can do some canceling. 3 goes into 3 one time, 3 goes into the other 3 one time as well. Nothing else I can simplify, so I'm going to do 8 times 1 is 8, over 1 times 1 is 1, and that's simply going to equal 8. So my answer to 2 2/3 divided by 1/3 is going to be 8. Last example we're going to do together. If you're feeling confident about this skill, notice we're going to have to change both of our numbers this time, but go ahead and pause and try it on your own if you feel confident. If not, watch with me as we go through one more time. I'm going to start out by changing 3 4/7 into an improper fraction, doing 3 times 7, which is 21, plus 4, which is 25 sevenths. Then I'm going to do divided by, well, I'm going to write 3 1/2 as an improper fraction, so that'll be 3 times 2, which is 6, plus 1, which is 7, over 2. Now again, it can be tempting to start canceling right now. We cannot go to the canceling step till after we've left one fraction alone and flipped and used our reciprocal. So I'm going to keep 2 25 sevenths, and I'm going to multiply that by 2 over 7. So notice with this one, again, I cannot cancel those 7s. They both end up horizontal as our denominators. There's no other way to do canceling, which does happen sometimes. So I'm simply going to have to continue from here, multiply my two numerators to get 50, multiply my two denominators to get 49, Then if I want to simplify, I'm going to have to write it as a mixed number. 49 goes in one time, leaves a remainder of 1, and 49 stays as my denominator. So I have 1 and 1 over 49. At this point, continue on answering the rest of the questions on the note skeleton sheet, and we'll review and go over how to do this tomorrow.